I'm talking to Mike Cooper of the 1014 County of Glamorgan project here in the locomotive workshops in Dinkirk. We're surrounded by all these various other projects that are going on at the moment, and it's really interesting to hear his view on this amazing project, which is producing a new build, the last of the Great Western 460s.
That's why no counties were ever preserved then?
No, County of Chester, 1011, last to go 1965. They wanted to clear steam off the railways, and particularly Great Western, so she was cut up straight away. And none ever went to Barry, so none were rescued. So don't get the wrong idea that this is 1014. This is a pastiche for 1014.
Yeah.
And what happened with that was one of our members, who's what we call our project facilitator, a guy called David Bradshaw, he got a wizard idea that the counties and the modified halls were very, very similar, frame and bogey-wise.
Yeah.
So he suggested, because there was Willington Hall, 7927 down at Barry, wouldn't it be a good idea to take Willington out of Barry and to build a county? Now, it wasn't ever quite as simple as that, because you didn't have a county boiler, and there were other people looking for bits off Willington. So what happened, Vale of Glamorgan Council, took a long time, but we got there in the end. They agreed that we could have two Barry locomotives. One was an 8F, which was split, and we got the boiler, and a lot of parts from Willington Hall went to the Betton Grange project 6880 at Llangollen. Now we basically got a boiler, which is an 8F boiler. It's very, very similar to a county number 15 boiler. And we got the frame, and we got a scrap box of bits. We formed the project team in 2007, and there were just two of us. There was myself as project manager, and a guy called Keith Gilbert, who is a time-served steam engineer, and we were both working on Pendennis. This came into the workshop, and we said, well, we knew that they wanted a project team, so we said, well, we can do that. We didn't realise what we were letting ourselves in for, but we put together a project team in about 15 months, and we've got a very, very good, solid team now, about 18 guys, and lots of different disciplines, and it works very well. Yeah. And one great thing is that it's a digitally based project. Everything is done by email, by AutoCAD. There's no longhand stuff or anything. When Willington Hall came from Barry via Llangollen, the 6-foot wheels weren't any good to us. In fact, they're sitting now in our store against some future project for a hall or something like that. So we had to set to and get 6'3" wheels made. 6'3", unique size for the Great Western, so there weren't any knocking about. So we got convertible pattern made. They were cast and machined and fitted to the axles, all in UK, which is great. And the reason they're sitting here like this is that when you cast steel, you inevitably get surface imperfections. Nothing dreadful, but you do get little surface imperfections, and I don't know whether I can find any. They've all been filled in now by my guys, but what we wanted to do was to make sure that the outside of the locomotive looked really, really pucker. As good as a soldier on parade. I think £132,000 total. And all except the axles done in the UK. So anyone who says that British engineering is dead, not true. We don't have to go to India or to China to get stuff done. We can find everyone to do our work within the UK. But this is the kind of standard that I'm looking for from the guys for the rest of the project. In fact, if not this standard, better. We wouldn't want to go any worse standard than this.
Is this groundbreaking for the way restoration has been done up to now? Perhaps you shouldn't answer that question.
No, actually, I don't think it's really necessarily groundbreaking.
It's just incremental improvement, maybe.
I think the big thing about preservation and restoration is that in the late 70s, 80s and 90s, it was a hobby. It was a bit of a hobby. And I don't want to be disparaging on those guys who've gone before. But legislation now, and what we've got to do to achieve certain standards has tightened up so much that we're now in the locomotive restoration industry. We are an industry, and we have to obey the checks and the bats and the regulations and all the rest of it that come out of the industry. And anyway, if you're doing something like this, there's only one way to do it. You do it once and you do it right. And you achieve the highest possible standard that your workforce and your money can give you. This is the chimney here. A bit of a history behind this. This was found in someone's garden, and it was acting as a picnic table, believe it or not. So this guy, he was an old fella, and he said, well, you can have it as long as you take it away. So we took it away, all covered in ivy and dirt and all the rest of it, brought it back here, and reconditioned it, repainted it, cleaned it up. To make a new one of those would cost us between £15,000 and £18,000 with the pattern and the casting and the machinery. So it was a pretty good deal. And it's a genuine county chimney. It comes from 1006, which is Cornwall, I think. Right. The county, you've seen the chimney. The county's got a double chimney. They didn't have double chimneys to start with, but we're building this one with the number 15OA boiler, which has a 3, and it's got a double chimney. The donor had a single chimney, and all of this part was rotted away. Basically, the ash in the smoke box is very, very acidic. So what we had to do is to get into here by taking off the smoke box saddle, release all this piping, pull it out, and from here to the top produce a double chimney specification. And so this is all of this above here is new work onto old work, but it's all been reconditioned. When we opened this up, it was absolutely rotten inside. Everything that was in there literally had fallen apart. So we needle gunned it and sandblasted it back, right the way back to bare metal, and recoated it. And again, I talk about standards. This is the kind of standard that we're looking for in the future.
So this is the new cab.
Yeah.
So what are the issues here then?
Well, the first issue is that we didn't get any cab when the frame came. It was all ferric oxide, basically.
Yeah.
What we had to do, we had to build the rear end, rebuild it complete. No back head fittings, there's no cab fittings, nothing at all. Now, we were very callow youths when we started, and we didn't actually realise what some of the major engineering issues were that we were going to have to address. The biggest thing about the county is the width of the cab, and particularly the width on the shoulders where the cab joins the roof. But at 8'6", it's 6 inches wider than other Great Western locomotives.
Oh, I didn't realise that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also the height of a county, and the highest point on the county is the safety valve spindles, is about 4 inches higher than the network rail gauging of, well, it depends whether it's new build, it's 13 foot, if it's existing modification, it's 13 foot wide. So when we examined this, we found out we're going to have to take about 4 inches off the top of the cab, and we were going to have to take 4 inches off the safety valve. Now the way we did that was to drop the boiler in the frames by 1 3/4 and reduce the height of the cab sides by about 4 inches. Now I'm saying inches, we actually don't deal in inches, we deal in metric because it's far more accurate, but in round figures that's what we're talking about.
So it's about proportion really, rather than just size and height, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what we have done, we've issued an AutoCAD which shows the side elevation of the locomotive as she will be, and we also have got an AutoCAD, well it's not, it's a JPEG, so it's a photograph of a drawing as it was, and when you compare them you can see the differences, but they are not significant. And my response to people who say, oh well, you're going to ruin the look of the locomotive. If you want to see a county on the main line, we're going to have to obey the network rail gauging requirements. So that's where we are.
Yeah.
So this is all new work.
Yeah. What about cylinders then? Because Halls have had trouble on the main line with them taking little chunks out of platforms and things. haven't
Yeah,
they?
well I hope you wouldn't raise that, but you have done. We could make new cylinders. We could get a pattern made and we could cast the cylinders, we could machine them, we could make them, we could make sure that they're all level by optics. But there are halls running about, plenty of halls running about with the same size cylinders as ours will have, and they're not banned, they just are not allowed on some lines. And we made with our chairman, we made a positive judgment that we would do the best we could within, again, the engineering and cost constraints. So we've done a lot of work on the cab, we've dropped the boiler, but we're going to leave the cylinders as they are.
Yeah.
When you're standing on the locomotive, you see the problem with the height reduction. Now I'm not a tall guy, but we've taken 4 inches off the top here. So if this was another 4 inches up, I could stand on the floor with no problem at all. And this window would be slightly higher. But we are where we are. So what we're doing is we're recruiting small locomotive crew and gorillas for firemen.
So we've got the original frames, and then we've got the new work that's in grey primer, as is at the moment.
Yes. The typical county splashes, again, a first for Hawksworth, but there was a precedent set with straight splashes in the Castle and the King, the streamliners. But all of this, none of this was here, and all of this has been designed. So as we move down the locomotive, the sanding gear, it's got old components in it.
So the rod.
This rod, yes. These are old components. That's an old component, but the rod is all new.
Yeah.
Then the reversing reach rod. This is all new work. The pedestal here. New work.
Up here. So the reversing rod isn't from the Hall or anything.
No. We got the reversing rod.
Can you look up on this as well?
Hall,
Yeah.
but it didn't fit properly.
Yeah.
And it again, I think we mentioned earlier about
So everything
standardisation.
slightly doesn't fit.
Exactly.
So what's that?
Because the counties were specials. There were only 30 of them, and I think they were built by Mr. Hawksworth almost as a. He wanted a mixed traffic locomotive. He wanted to get building going again in Swindon.
Yeah.
And this is what he came up with. But they're not by any standard with other Great Western locomotives.
Do you think he wanted to establish his own standard?
I think he might have done.
But of course,
Probably
it was
overawed
curtailed,
by
wasn't it?
Churchwarden College. Yes.
But of course, with the war making life very difficult in terms of materials, and then of course the nationalisation completely scuppered the whole thing, didn't it? Really?
Well, again, design work started on these in 1944.
Yeah.
I mean, we have drawings for the 99XX class mixed traffic locomotive 460, which is what the counties became.
Yeah.
And those drawings are dated 1944. So he had this gem of his idea towards the end of the war. He wouldn't have been allowed to build passenger locomotives locomotives, but mixed traffic locomotives he'd get away with. But he didn't do the restorers and rebuilders any favours, I have to say. Now, as we move back, the reverser, the screw reverser, that's an existing component. That is a Great Western component, all standard. But the reverser tower, the leg plates, and the cab sides, they're all new work.
All new fabrications.
All new fabrications. Yeah. Sandboxes.
Down here, sandboxes.
All new.
Yeah.
Again, all new. The actual box itself, but the leverage here is existing. Bit greasy as well. These steps, all new work.
Yeah.
And of course, we talked about the drag box at the back. That was new work at Llangollen before she even came to us.
It's a new engine, isn't it?
Well, it's not far off. Yeah, and luckily we're not subject to the constraints of a new engine. It's classed as a rebuild.
Yeah.
So we've got a bit of laxness on the dimensions, on the gauging. We don't have to come down to 13 foot. So if it's 13 foot and a half, it'll be okay. Yeah. But as long as it's not more than 13 foot 1.
Yeah.
But that's the county, really. A lot of work to do. And people say to me, when's it going to be finished? And I say, well, the wheels are out there. The first target is to get the wheels onto the frame. And we've declared that for the first quarter of 2013. The boiler should be back from crew at the end of 2014, and we want to put the boiler onto the rolling chassis for 2015, which is a significant date, 50 years since the original 1014 was cut up.
Yeah.
Now the next question I think you're bound to ask me is, when's it going to be steamed in on the main line? Well, I think it's going to be 2018, 2019, I think. As they say in Ireland, if I'm spared.
If I'm
spared.
Well, I think we all start to think like that a little bit, don't we?
So what are you actually building, do you think then, Mike?
Well, you've hit the nail on the head. What are we building? I mean, we're obviously trying to build a Hawksworth county, but we've made a lot of concessions to the gauging and on the inside motion that we've talked about. And there is a sort of a rather bad joke going around that when people say, well, what are you building? Actually, what we're building is a modified hall with a socking grate boiler, a double chimney and big wheels.
Is it the ultimate fate?
Well, that's actually, you've hit the nail on the head. That's why we're doing this, because it is the ultimate development of the Great Western two-cylinder locomotive, which started off with the Saint, which of course is in the other shop. Hopefully it will go better than the Saint. I don't know. We'll have to see.